So I've jacked up the truck, greased the kingpins, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, these are all my stuff. I had to get some blocks, jack the front up. It always pays to jack up your front wheels when you grease the kingpins. Grease them a bit when it's down, and then grease them again when it's jacked up, so the weight's off it and the grease can get all through everything. So it's a bit of a mess there. But those greasy little things there, that's a kingpin grease nipple. There's another one up there. And all those joints with grease nipples on them, I've given them a good grease. It's a bit messy. I'll give it a wipe before I finish up. I've greased this one. There's a grease nipple at the top of my steering box I've greased, and all the drive shaft grease nipples. I've actually got rubber gloves on. I don't usually do these jobs with the rubber gloves. I usually just get really dirty hands, and I've already destroyed one pair of these silly little gloves. But I've got a little bit of dermatitis on my left hand from grease and stuff, so I thought, you know, it's nearly healed up. I've been putting iodine on it, which seems to be the only thing that helps. And yeah, I didn't want to get grease in there. I think that could have made it worse. So these gloves are driving me insane. It's really hard to hold on to the end of the grease gun. It's really hard to feel things, you know, but it'll have to do for now. So yeah, this is my little project this morning, to do a bit of maintenance on the truck. It's COF time in a few weeks, so I like to have a good look around under here, make sure everything's okay, give it a clean up, grease it, make a mess, and to make it really fun. I'm in a paddock that's full of swan poo, and I can smell it. My overalls have got swan and goose poo on them, so yeah, they won't be coming back inside. They'll need to be washed. I'll do that in a bucket, I think. So yeah, grease isn't the biggest concern here, it's poo. I should have cleaned it all up under the truck before I pulled up here, but never mind. What's a bit of swan poo?
You don't think before you act. There's something really off about that.
So I've cleaned up a bit. I brushed my hair since my last little bit of shooting, which I was doing on my phone because I really didn't want to drag my DSLR microphone and stuff under the truck, you know. Phone's quite handy for that, but the audio can be a bit wonky in the phone, but it'll have to do. So anyway, I've cleaned up a bit, and I've been thinking about the whole maintenance thing, you know. I remember people saying to me, oh my gosh, you know, why do you do all this stuff to your truck? And it's like, well, I want it to last me, and it can save you a lot of money just to pump some grease into the grease nipples and things like that. So it's very, very worthwhile to me. Maintenance is part of owning a truck, and it's not fun. I don't enjoy groveling around and with grease and stuff like that, but it's also, I'm quite capable of doing it, so it seems a bit silly to pay somebody $120 an hour to do it, you know. So and it is good. I like doing things like that in a certain sense. I just don't like grease very much. So yeah, that's something I do before every COF. I also go under there with my big torch. I've got a very bright torch for that sort of thing, and just have a good look at everything. Just make sure I haven't got any loose bits or loose bolts or surface rust. I just did that too. I got under there with a can of Fisherline, but I need to get some more and just clean up any surface rust and spray some Fisherline on it. Some people like to use the zinc spray. I like Fisherline because it's not like paint. You're not going to get a whole lot of rust under it. It's a different kind of membrane, so I quite like that, and it makes all the steel look really nice and black when it dries. It looks very good. So, but I've got a few patches where I need to redo it. So I like to do that before COFs. And also, being an old Betty, she has the odd wee oil leak, which look dreadful, but they don't even register on the dipstick. I hardly ever have to put oil in this, maybe once between oil change, half a litre or something. But yeah, no, so those oil leaks, they just don't look good. A little bit of oil goes a really long way and looks really, really bad. So I get under there with a rag and some degreaser and give everything a wipe down and a clean up, and yeah, and that allows me to have a really good look around, at all sorts of odds and sods. Like, I had a really frustrating situation recently where my truck was making this horrible noise at high revs, this horrible high chirping weird sound, and I was checking it out and I was under there and I thought it was the bracket to my muffler, and I didn't know what it was. It actually took me a couple of weeks to sort it out. And from the clutch and gearbox, there's this arm that goes up into this rod that stabilizes the whole thing from tipping, I suppose. And there was a bolt through a cross member that rod was attached to, and that was shaking around and spinning around and rattling and making a horrible noise. I couldn't believe it when I found that. It was something so simple. But yeah, no, it's good to have a look at things like that before you go through for a certificate of fitness, or if you live in another country, whatever you have there. And that way you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on under your vehicle, and the more often you do it, the better you get to know it. So even if you pay somebody to grease it, it's still a good idea to have a wee look. Yeah, checking lights, indicators, stuff like that, of course, that's not hard to do. To test my brake lights, if I haven't got anyone around who can stand on my brakes briefly, I actually wedge a little piece of wood between my bottom of my dash thing, and my pedal, and that works, and then I can run back and check it, and so that's really good too. So my attitude is, if I can do everything I possibly can before I take it through for its certificate of fitness, then things can still be wrong. Last time I got caught out for a wheel bearing, I hadn't noticed that. I did actually check that today because I had the front jacked up while I was greasing the kingpin, so I put a bar into the wheel just to see, because sometimes new bearings, when they settle in, they can become a bit loose and need a bit of a tweak. So I wanted to have a look how that was, but no, it's still pretty tight. So, which was lucky, because the big thing that goes on the outside of the bearing, I don't have a tool big enough to take that off, so I would have to go and borrow one. I did that once. I pulled into a gas station come garage and asked them if I could borrow a really big set of Stilsons to get that cap off, and they were more than happy to lend that to me. I've just never gone out and bought anything big enough for that thing. So yeah, but I think maintenance is, I don't know, for me it gives me peace of mind too, I guess. I know where it's at. If it was all some sort of hazy, vague mystery, I don't think I'd feel as confident about my vehicle as I do knowing where it's at. I also know exactly, what's been done on it and what hasn't. I actually have a book that's for the truck, and every time I get something done, I do something, I buy parts for it or whatever, I keep the receipts and I write it in the book with the date, things like that, parts numbers, which is really handy if you ever need to go back and get the same part again for something, and price and all of that sort of stuff. So that's really handy to look back on too. That's helped me out a couple of times where, even something as simple as getting an air filter, I've got it there, exactly the model air filter I need. I can just go in there and go, I need a blah blah blah, and boom, I've got one. So that book's really good. And I've no intention of ever selling this place. I love it too much, but if I ever did, it's got a very detailed history of yeah, where it's at, what's been done, and what hasn't and things like that. So yeah, it's pretty good. But anyway, I highly recommend getting intimately acquainted with your vehicle. I know some of the really modern ones, they'd befuddle me. There's so much complicated stuff under the engine bay. I just look there and go, oh gosh, I have no idea what half of that stuff is. But you know, your basics like bearings and moving parts and things like that. And grease is a wonderful thing. It stops them from wearing out too early. So yeah, maintenance is pretty important as far as I'm concerned. So this weekend I've made this video because I actually didn't go to the Woodfest because this little monkey, Miss Feeny, you smile for the camera? No? She doesn't want to. She was sick. I had to take her to the vet. She was really not very well. And so we went to the vet and she had a very bad urinary infection which had moved up to her kidneys apparently, so she had to have some antibiotics and things. And I just felt taking her to a big festival in my vehicle with chainsaws and people and dogs and noise, and I just didn't think she needed that. She's 12 years old. I don't want her kidneys to be permanently damaged. I want them to heal and get well. And yeah, so I thought, well, no, actually that's not what we need to be doing right now. So I didn't go. I contacted them, and sounds a bit wimpy, you know. Sorry, I'm not coming. My cat's sick, but she's my buddy. She's my friend. So looking after her is kind of my task. I took her on, so it's my task to make sure I do what's required for her. And look, she's been a trooper. She's travelled so much. She's been around the North Island probably 12 times, around the South Island several times. She's probably travelled more than a lot of humans, so not dragging her around hard out and travelling a little bit slower at the moment, I don't think it's a bad thing. And I'm enjoying it too. So anyway, that's about all for my ramble on maintenance. I hope you're having a wonderful time, and please like and subscribe and let me know about anything you'd like me to make videos about, and see you all next time.
You don't think before you act. There's something really off about that. Can't you see the